Hey everyone, and welcome to your Motivation Monday. Hope you guys have had a fantastic weekend and have an even better week ahead. So, I want to talk about something that I think every referee goes through in one form or another as their career progresses. We get so amped up on preparing, we get so amped up on focusing on having those great games, right? And we almost try to overextend ourselves. We get to the pitch early. We are running through our pregame. We are making sure that everything is in its place the way it needs to be. And then that next game happens and something's off. Something just isn't the same, right? It could be a coach that's complaining. It could be the field is not quite prepared the same way that you'd want it to be, right? The goals aren't anchored yet. The all of these things that can start to happen. It looks like there's storm clouds on the horizon, right? And you start to lose focus trying to control those things that aren't on you. They're not your controllable, right? Because we get ready, we prepare, we are trained, we know the laws, we are there early, we know the administrative stuff, the paperwork that we need to be doing, and all of that is on us. But then we start drifting into other areas where maybe that control isn't necessarily on us, right? So take this as a reminder to just simply control what you can. You can't control who gets what game. You cannot control the weather. You can't control the behavior of the coaches, the players, the fans, the spectators, anything. None of that's under your control. You control your preparation. You control your own attitude. You control your reactions, your fitness, your positioning. The whole decision-making process is under your control. And honestly, how you respond to anything that happens on the field. You realize you can control quite a lot, but that still isn't enough for a lot out there. And that's where this comes from. We want to highlight everything that we can control so that we realize just how little is outside of our control, but that we have to let it go. We can't control the way a coach behaves. We can sanction them. We can warn them, ask, tell, dismiss, all that sort of stuff. You can get there. But the trap comes in the sense that worrying about everything else that we cannot control is a waste of your mental energy. If you are obsessing over a particular coach's reactions, if it's getting under your skin every single time, not in your control. He's trying to influence your reaction. If you are overthinking every decision and it's because the crowd is getting on you, the crowd is not in your control. They're excited. They're passionate. They want their team to win. They want their players to do well. They want their striker to score goals, their goalkeepers to save goals. They want all of this stuff. And none of that is then on us. So we worry about and we dwell on the things we can't control, and often it is at the expense of everything that we can. We sacrifice worrying about a coach's behavior, and we sacrifice, what do we sacrifice when we dwell on a coach's behavior? Do we sacrifice the decision making? Do we sacrifice our positioning because we're trying to get to a point where we can address the coach and tell him to knock it off, right? Do we sacrifice our composure and our ability to react appropriately? These are all things that happen when we start worrying about the things we don't need to worry about. And that's where I think it's best to kind of look at this as a reset. as we go through the week, pick 3 things that you can work on in your games. Kind of come through and find those 3 items that are your principal focus and master them, right? So we can say to ourselves, I'll start every match with a clean mental slate. Sometimes you have 3, 4 matches in a day. So you do, after each one, you put a pin in it, move on. You want to focus on maybe your proactive communication, making sure that we can maybe get ahead of some of that behavior, or proactive communication with your crew, making sure that they know what you're about and that how you're going to call the game. And then you can start focusing on specific areas, right? Like when there's an attack, I want my positioning to be perfect. I want to be able to see these critical areas and these critical moments. If you can think, if you can kind of boil it down to those 3 things, or 3 things that are similar, and you start focusing on them, everything else is going to come through without any problem. A nice little bonus for this is that after every game, use these 3 items, whatever those 3 items are, use them as benchmarks for a journal, for a voice note, for something, right? So that when you're going through and you're kind of reevaluating your game in the day, you're able to kind of come back and remember, hey, what was that thing I was working on? What was that thing? I want to know, because you can then start to track it from game to game to game. Because when you control what's under your control, everything else falls into place. If you ignore that kind of annoying coach, right? Not necessarily dissenting, not necessarily, off in a bus, but just that really annoying, nagging kind of coach, right? If you ignore them, they stop. We tell them once, worry about your own team, and we move forward. That's how it works, right? When we start focusing on being proactive in our communication, we can get ahead of some of these things. And we can make sure that as we're making calls and so forth, that we're able to communicate to our team, to our clubs. We're able to communicate to our crew and to the teams and so forth, right? If there's time added on, we let them know in advance. All of this stuff starts to boil down and play into what it means to have a successful match by controlling only what you can control. The one thing, and for many reasons, there are so many different ways to get trapped into worrying about what you can't control. Because you think it's important. You think it's important to control everything. And there is a lot that you are under control of already. But the best referees out there, the most powerful referees out there, aren't perfect. They're present. Meaning they have the presence of mind to stay focused on those items that they control and to reject everything that is exterior to what they can do. Because when you have that focus locked in, absolutely everything else will follow. So I hope that helps. What I would do for the next week or so is start thinking about what those 3 things are that you can focus on during a game. Start thinking about what those 3 things that you can control and those that only you can control, right? And start tracking. Journaling is great. The voice notes are fantastic. These are all perfect options to be able to go through and to really control what you can so that you have the best possible game moving forward. And like I said, once you figure all that out, everything else just slips right into place the way it should. So I hope that helps you guys. Drop your comment down below and start talking. Give me an idea. What are the 3 things that you think you want to focus on? Think about the things that will move the needle the most for you in any given game, right? And think about how you can articulate and share and track those things that you're trying to focus on in terms of your control. I look forward to seeing your comments. I look forward to all the engagement, and I hope that you guys have a fantastic week. And I will see you guys for What's Your Call Wednesday. Have a great one.